Hey guys, and today we are in the 2008 Toyota Blade. Now, this car, I feel like it was a research project that Toyota scrapped off, but they were researching something big. Let me explain. Now, this car weighs only 1,300 or so kilograms, and yet what is packed in this car is the same engine that you'll find in the Toyota Alphard, the Toyota RAV4, the Toyota Vanguard, the Toyota Estima, and all those big size Toyotas. Now, this car came in 4 categories, okay? So you could get the 2.4 liter two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive and the 3.5 liter two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. Now, the 3.5 liter is actually called the Blade Master. It's like this car is Toyota's answer to the VW Golf R or R32. I do not know what Toyota was thinking, but we can get a few pointers because this car is quick. And I feel like giving it a limit of 180 kilometers per hour was just, it wasn't right. It just wasn't right. When you sit in this car, the last thing you will think is it's a Toyota. Well, of course, until you turn on the things like the speaker, because the speaker is really crappy. If there's any one thing I want to complain about this Toyota, it's the speakers. Now, I've been driving this. This car was shipped in by Africa's UG, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Now, look, I'm doing already 60 kilometers per hour, but I am confident that even while you're hearing me speak, you can barely imagine that this car is now at 80 kilometers per hour. So you always have to sort of look at the speedo because you could easily find yourself overspeeding in this car. I think you want to sort of put it in the category of the Mach-X. It's just that the Mach-X is tail happy. It's a rear wheel drive. So you find that the Mach-X will probably easily drift on a wet day, but this is a front wheel drive. So and that's also just a reminder, if you're trying to buy a Mach-X that has already been driven in Uganda, you really have to be careful and check to make sure it's actually not a crashed vehicle. Yeah. So this car has a 2AZ engine, so that is the 2.4 liter engine, and it pumps out about 170 horsepower. Now that is amazing. I mean, look now, if I just gave it a little push, this is 90. Now I've been at 70. It's quick, guys. I feel like this car didn't get the respect and the glory that it desired. You see, a lot of our market is adulterated sometimes by just the fact that dealers want to make money, and they might crook a buyer's mind to say these cars consume a lot of fuel, or these cars are difficult to maintain, these cars have expensive parts and things like that. So you find that certain cars will have a low resale value, or certain cars will just not sell per se. They'll have a very low demand just because a dealer said it has a big engine. Now, this car has a CVT gearbox. The 2.4 liter comes with a CVT gearbox, which is very uniquely able to give this car the same fuel economy as a Toyota Noah, for example. And the Toyota Noah is a 2 liter CVT as well. So you're looking at fuel economy of about 13 kilometers per liter on a good day without traffic jam, which is great. You know, there are people that don't like buying European cars, but they just want to have the fun of driving a European car with, let's say, similar capabilities or dynamics. And I feel like this car ticks that box, or most of those boxes. And I'll just explain, because you see, it's got the McPherson struts at the front, and at the back, it's actually got the multi-link suspension. Now, when you put that together, you get the same dynamics as a European vehicle. Of course, most people who buy these cars will want to raise them, just to raise the suspension a little bit. This car has three options for interior. For the interior, you find that some have the leather and the half leather, which I love. This is leather and Alcantara. So, it keeps your bottom and your back cool all the time on a hot day, and also on a cold day it keeps them warm. Okay, while the leather just gives you that luxury feel. Then there are those that are full leather, and you find that some have brown, orange, black, full leather, and then there are those which just have just the fabric seats. I would recommend this one, which has Alcantara leather seats. This car debuted in 2006, and unfortunately they scrapped it, I think, in 2014 or 13 or so. And it, I mean, yeah, accountants will always have to do their job in companies just to predict sales and things like that. But I think the research that went into this car was top notch, and I feel like it could have actually become a very successful product. You might argue that probably there might have been some economic challenges between 2008, I think, and about 2011. There were some economic issues globally, and so you might find that the cost of production for this car maybe wasn't going to be profitable, and it's understandable. But sometimes I like the patience game. If you are an enthusiast, I feel like if you just rebuild this engine, give it some boost, and use it actually for maybe racing or rally or something, it might actually do the job pretty well. Change the transmission, of course, to another one. That would be great. Yeah, so the Toyota Blade it's it's effortless. It does things effortlessly. It just goes, and I just have to make sure I'm within the speed limit. But if it was up to me, in a few seconds, this car would probably max out all this, to 180. And so it sort of gives you the feeling of Toyota should have given it at least a top speed of 260 kilometers per hour, because then that would be more ideal, because it's a small package it's a big engine in a small package. Yeah, think of it like having a huge processing power on a laptop that somebody is using just to do reports every month at the office. It sort of gives you that vibe. I feel like it needed a bit more chance just to give Toyota. Maybe they could have called it the Auris R or the Auris GTI or something, because it's worth it. It really delivers the job when you need it, as and when. These cars, of course, there are people that just want a fun car, a car that delivers, a car that is easy to maintain and doesn't disturb, and a car that's not European. And this car, if really you have most of your journey is like this to work, it's just a smooth road, maybe just humps along the way once in a while, this would be quite a good option for you. Let's just say you have bread. You have bread, and think of these two companies: Imperial Bread and maybe, I don't know, Bicycle Loaf. Okay, and so Imperial Bread is releasing amazing bread one after the other. Customers are buying, and it's doing so well. While the Bicycle Loaf wants a way in. Their bread is great, people love it, but they want to also respond to a certain new type of loaf or package that Imperial Bread has released. And then they realize, why are we really fighting for this? Our bread is already great and what, so they just stop. They stop making that interesting package. Yeah, this is something that I feel Toyota might have done as well. If you're in the market for a car that is sport-like, drives like, it gives you a sporty feel when you drive, is effortless, is probably easy to maintain, and could arguably compete against the likes of the Foresters and all that in terms of picking and speed, this is a good car that you can consider. Let me just give you a little piece of advice. When you're buying the Toyota Blade, try to buy one where you're the first user, and try to get a low mileage, and get one where you are the first owner in the country, because you'll find that it's fantastic from the beginning. The consumption and everything is great because you'll not know the history of it before. And then the other thing is, most of the people who buy these cars will actually lift them. So when you sit in one that has already been driven around, you find that it's got suspension issues, the shock absorbers are not as great, it's a bit rolly or bubbly, and so you might get a different impression of what this car can do and what it's like to drive. So just have that in mind when you're buying the Toyota Blade. Yeah. Toyota being Toyota, you find that they are some things that are shared with other companies, with other cars. For example, the steering wheel, you're going to find the same steering wheel on the Toyota Harrier, I think, or the Toyota Alphard, one of the two. You're going to find this steering wheel. I'm sure the brakes, you're going to find them on another Toyota. You're going to find this, the gear lever or the gear shifter on another Toyota, the AC panel. So it's not hard to find spare parts for this car. And nobody should lie to you that this car is unreliable. It's actually reliable. And if this car finds itself in the right hands, it's actually not a bad car to own. I've driven the Toyota Blade for a long distance. This is not the first one that I've driven, and I remember I took a trip from the border, that is Malaba, to Kampala, and it really was a quick trip. Before I went with a few friends, and before we knew it, we were already in Kampala, and it wasn't necessarily because we were driving fast. No, it just had a lot to do with just the comfort of the car, the just the contentment you feel when you're driving it. It's one of those cars that you will want to drive, especially if you do a lot of long journeys, if you love traveling, you love going to visit places, or maybe you have family, but family is out of town. Same, the west, the east, the north, the south. This is a good buy. This is a good buy. Toyota had put a Lexus badge on this car. I feel like even up to now, its value would have still been very high. But most of the blades you're going to see around town are abused. And that's because the original owner bought it and, did well and probably sold it early, or sold it because they thought maybe the consumption was so high, or failed to maintain it. And then whoever bought it just gave it a bad, maintenance, and so all of them are beaten up and scratched and all. But if you can actually give the car a proper maintenance, service it in time, buy original parts, buy genuine parts, it shouldn't be a disappointment, this car. I feel like this car would also be very good for, I don't mean it to disappoint the men, but it would be also great if you're a lady and you just love what you do, you love your job, you go to work every day back home, you just want a good car, powerful, reputable on the road, and you don't really like the little tiny cars, it's great. One complaint I will have about the Toyota Blade is two complaints. One is the way the car is set up in the back. There are things that rattle a bit. I think the parcel shelf or the cover for the boot wasn't set up very well. So you find that the quality is, though that those are some of the places where Toyota sort of just cut costs, and you find that it's not the best quality. And then when you look at the speakers, it was like, wow, we're done making this fantastic car. Oops. Oh. And then they called Paul. Paul, could you bring some speakers from the Vitz and put in here? Because whatever you do, whatever sound system you use, the speakers are just not great. Yeah, you definitely just need to get a sub, try to do aftermarket enhancement to the sound if you really want to have good sound in this car. Yeah, but when you look at the quality of just the sound deadening, it just gives you hope and also gives you an idea that actually Toyota can make cars that can compete with the Europeans. It's just that that's not what their business model is like, but they can achieve that. When you want felt, I mean, if you look under the wheel arches of this car, you find that there's felt under there. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to tap that subscribe button and share this video with a friend. If you're on the market for a Toyota Blade, remember to be the first owner of this car in the country. It's always nice to sit in these cars when you're the first user, because it gives you an idea of actually what the manufacturer was trying to do, what they were thinking when they're trying to make this car, because it's nice.